Lesson 11-1 Integers and Absolute Value. Our objective here is to learn to identify and graph integers and find opposites. So let's start out by talking about positive and negative numbers. Well, a positive number is a number that is greater than 0, and a negative number would be a number that is less than 0. And we use positive and negative numbers all the time. For example, let's say you're flying in an airplane over water and over the ocean, and we say that the ocean is sea level. We actually refer to that as sea level. And when we're talking about how far something is above in height, we refer to that height as elevation, and we measure that against sea level. So sea level is 0 feet. Our plane up here flying is a certain number of feet above sea level or above 0. So this distance that the plane is above sea level would be a positive number, and we would say this is positive. Let's say our plane is flying at 500 feet. So we would say that that is a positive 500 feet high. And we can put the plus there. You'll see that sometimes to indicate positive. Most often we just see the number by itself, but we know that that is a positive number. Now, the opposite of that would be a negative number, and a negative number, if we still have sea level being 0, if we were going to go down into the water, if we were going to be our fish down here, we would say that this is negative number of feet below sea level. So the distance from sea level down to our fish would actually be a negative number, and we could say that our fish is negative. Let's say our fish is swimming down there at 150 feet below sea level. So he is negative 150 feet below sea level. So above our 0, if we're going up, it's positive. Below is negative. Another common item you use with positive and negative numbers is a thermometer. So here's a thermometer, and has two scales, Celsius on one side or centigrade, and Fahrenheit on the other side. In the United States we tend to look at Fahrenheit, but most places in the world actually use the centigrade side. And we have these numbers along here, and here's our 0 mark. Anything above 0 would be a positive number, and anything below 0 would be a negative number. So we can see right now our thermometer is reading about a positive 20 degrees Celsius, or about a positive 70 degrees Fahrenheit. If we were to drop that, if we looked at our red and it was down here, then we would read that as a negative 10 degrees Celsius. So positive and negative are used a lot when talking about temperatures. One of the terms you'll hear often is the term integer. And integers are the set of all whole numbers and their opposites. So whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and negative 1, 2, negative 3, negative 4. Those are whole numbers, not fractions, not decimals. And we can start with talking about 0, and 0 is neither a positive number or negative number. All the numbers, though, to the right of 0 are positive integers. I should say all whole numbers to the right of 0 are positive integers. All whole numbers to the left of 0 are negative integers. Now opposites are numbers that are on a number line. They're the same distance from 0, but on a different side of 0. For example, if I have positive 2, that distance from 0 is 2 away. On the opposite side of 0, the distance that's 2 away is negative 2. So positive 2 and negative 2 are opposites. That would be an example of opposites. 3 and negative 3 would be opposite. 4 and negative 4, negative 5 and positive 5 would be opposites as well. So, for example, if we were going to try and look at, if we were going to graph some of these numbers on a number line, we could graph the integer and its opposite. So let's say we're going to mark out negative 4 and its opposite. So here is where negative 4 would be, and its opposite would be positive 4. So we could mark that off right there. We could also look at negative 5. Negative 5 is right here. Its opposite, the same distance away from 0 on the other side, is positive 5. Same thing with positive 1. Here's positive 1 on the number line. It's this distance away from 0, and on the opposite side, this distance would be negative 1. Solutions for numbers 1 through 5 on page 596. Number 1, an increase of 5 points. You could write that as positive 5. A loss of 15 yards could be written as negative 15. Number 3, 4, and 5. If you're graphing out a negative 2 and its opposite, negative 2 would be here. The opposite of negative 2 would be positive 2, and that would show up right there. For number 4, positive 1 would be right here. Its opposite would be negative 1, which would be here. And finally, negative 6, you would find that here on your number line. The opposite of negative 6 would be positive 6, which would be located right there.